Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Deep in the Plus. I'm your host Rob Whiteside. Tonight we are going to be talking about one of our Boulder attractions. It's the Jungle Cruise, and here to talk Jungle Cruise with me is Skipper Patrick. How are you, Skipper Patrick?
Finally, the hack has come back to Deep in the Plus.
Well, I mean,
one eyebrow.
Dude, you look creepy. Stop it. You're scaring the kids.
No.
You're scaring the kids.
Okay.
So, you know what? There was a little movie that came out with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and
One of the Boulder wrestlers.
I. Well, now I'm just done. That's awful.
G'day!
Yeah, exactly. So, The Rock and Emily Blunt got together and they made this little movie called Jungle Cruise, and it was about a Disney attraction. Now, there have been several movies that have come from Disney attractions, and you know what, Patrick? I don't know what your favorites are, but let's take a little cruise down memory lane here and take a look at some of them.
This is going to be good.
Yeah, no,
I have
for
strong
sure.
opinions here.
Yeah. So normally in a park situation at Disney, an attraction is like basically bringing the movie to life. In this particular case, and in many cases, several cases, they've taken an attraction and made it a movie. They've done the opposite. So, so there was this movie with Steve Guttenberg back in 1997, I believe, The Tower of Terror. It was a made-for-Disney, Wonderful World of Disney, I believe, or maybe Disney Channel. It was a TV movie that was made about the Tower of Terror. Then there was this little movie, Mission to Mars, which was loosely based on the Mission to Mars attraction in Tomorrowland. And then they went, oh, let's bring those country bears to life.
The best one of the group.
Okay, you've lost all credibility at this point, my friend, because I freaking love the country bears.
So good.
But they did such a bad job bringing this to the
No,
screen.
they did not.
Okay, disagree. So then they did the Haunted Mansion, and actually they're about to reboot that one and do another one, but they brought it to the screen with our
I mean,
good
we've
friend.
heard that like a lot, that they're going to do that. I'll believe it when it's on the screen.
Okay. The biggest success of all, Mr. Jack Sparrow, the Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know how. It's not a trilogy, not a quad. How many is when it's 5?
How many? I have no idea. I
Gotcha.
lost interest after the 3rd.
Most people did. And then now we have the Jungle Cruise. Now, that's only if we don't count this one. Do we count Tomorrowland as an attraction-based movie? Because it's not really.
I mean, if it's anything, it's vaguely based on a land, and It's a Small World plays a huge part in it. So I don't know. It's really interesting to think about. I don't think it counts. I'm one of the few people that really like that movie and just thought it needed to end maybe a half hour earlier.
Okay.
The 3rd act of Tomorrowland's terrible.
Third act. I was about to say exactly that. The third act, it all kind of falls apart because they set up this big mystery, and I'd like to do this one as a review of
House
Deep
and
in the
George
Plus.
Clooney are fist fighting.
Yeah, I'd like to do this as a Deep in the Plus sometime because I do think this is probably better than most people think it is, but also one that a lot of people miss. So we'll definitely talk about that at another point.
It's not my ride or die like John Carter, but I think it's better than a lot of people give it credit for.
So sometimes I can't take you seriously. So let's talk about this again. Let's take Jungle Cruise out of the equation here.
Okay.
Of these movies, do you literally think that the Country Bears is the best of the bunch?
I think the Country Bears is the most fun. I think Pirates had diminishing returns of fun as it continued to go on. I think if it was like a one and done or 2 movies or maybe even the trilogy would have been okay. But as it just kept going, it became less fun and I didn't even bother with it. Country Bears needs people to take another look at it because it's ridiculous. And as absurd humor is getting more and more popular, you see SNL is going more into the absurdist territory. If you watch Netflix and you've watched I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson, that's another very absurd show. And I think it's a little bit ahead of its time. And Christopher Walken's performance is just perfectly towing the line between crazy campy and an actual real performance. Very similar to another Dwayne Johnson movie. I forgot what the name of it now was because it had names before. The Rundown. He's also in that and doing kind of a similar role. Rob, I don't gotcha.
Yeah, I try to keep quiet while you're doing your thing. But I wanted to say thank you to Stephen Crawford's Super Chat, $4.99. They should make a movie about Autotopia. Could call it Not So Fast, but a Little Furious. But wait a minute. I gotta. Let's see if we have this on. I don't know if this counts. Oh no, it's not gonna. It's
Do
not
you
gonna
have an
play.
Autopia movie that you're not telling us about?
No, 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 no. There it is. Okay. All right. No, that's a good one. That's a very good one. Thank you again for the super chat. We appreciate you. And thanks for everybody who's tuning in tonight. We really, really love it when you guys are with us in the chat and can talk to us.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, tonight we got back bribes. Bribes are back. Bribes are back. Tonight,
Oh no.
at the very end, when the show is over, you go to the comments. If you will tell us your favorite Jungle Cruise corny line, we're gonna give away some wishables. I've got the little hippo, dude. These are legacy wishables. You can't find these anywhere, so this is a big deal.
Oh
And
man.
the skipper dude. So again, when it's all
That
said and
looks like
done,
Paul F. Tompkins.
kind of. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not wrong there. So definitely do that. Give us a thumbs up if you can. It helps people to find us. And if
Yeah.
you have not subscribed to Unplanned Downtime, gosh darn it, do that now too. So business out of the way. The bribes are there. We definitely want to give this stuff away to somebody. So give us a comment at the end. Tell us what you think your favorite line is. Again, I started with Boulder Attraction because I feel like that's one that I take for granted. And but there, you know what? I love when you're riding. So let's talk about the attraction for a second. Let's
Yes.
talk about
I
the
think that's a
attraction.
great place to start.
Yeah. So there's an attraction called the Jungle Cruise. It was one of the originals at Disneyland. It was Walt's baby. They have boats and they have docks. They have a couple docks. It's a paradox. Um, all night, buddy. All night. It's just all night. So, but this attraction exists in 4 theme parks across the world. So it's not in
And
Paris.
one of them it goes backwards for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, it's not in Paris and it's not in Shanghai because Shanghai they were trying to do new things. But the other 4 parks.
It wouldn't fit in Paris. It
Yeah.
it's, doesn't have the right vibe, and French humor is not Jungle Cruise humor.
Fair. So the attraction itself. Tell me when you go into the park and you were there not so long ago for your birthday.
Yep. Mhm.
Is this one that is a must do for you every single time?
100%. This is a must do every single time. And I tend to travel during the holidays. So, what I usually try and do in a year's time, I try to get 3 trips in with my DVC points and my annual pass to maximize value. I like to go on the Jungle Cruise once when it's regular. There used to be during Halloween parties, some skippers would do a more adult tour, which is one of the best experience I've ever had in a Disney theme park. And then I love Jingle Cruise. I wish Walt Disney World would get more seasonal overlays. Honestly, a Halloween overlay of Jungle Cruise would be incredible as well. It is a must do, and sometimes it's a must do multiple times because depending on your skipper depends on the attraction that you get. And there's great skippers out there. You did it again.
This movie was put together and produced by our good friend Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who has been in several Disney movies. He was in Moana, he was in The Game Plan, and he was also in Escape, I believe. Is it Escape? No,
Escape from Witch Mountain.
Race to Witch
Race
Mountain.
2?
Yes, it was
Which
Race.
has the meme. That's the only thing that's memorable from that movie is the meme of him doing the double take with the little girl in the back seat.
I don't know from that, but here's a picture of he got top billing on that one, big deal. I
Yep.
think Carla Gugino was also in this movie, but that was a remake. So I mean he's definitely been a part of Disney, but one of the things we've seen him do more recently is a lot of producing. He produced Behind the Attraction, which is a whole listing of great attractions that they gave kind of a synopsis of, and one of them, of course, was the Jungle Cruise. And then he also produced something that you and I reviewed, which was Stuntman. He produced that as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
definitely has some
And
strong
introduced it
ties.
too.
Yes, definitely has some strong ties to Disney and to Disney Plus along the way. So he produced this, and maybe he was the best candidate for the lead, or maybe he just said to the people, "Hey, I'm producing, I'm putting up the money, I'm the lead," and they created this character Frank, who is the skipper of the Jungle Cruise in this movie. And he's the one that kind of ties everything really to the attraction because he's
Yes.
given these like ad hoc tours of the jungle, and he's making all of these like little things happen. He's got like fake natives that are there, and he's got
Yeah.
yeah, all these little jokes and things. How exciting was it? Again, you're a huge fan of the attraction. How exciting was it for you to be able to see these things brought to life in a movie?
I just rewatched it, so I came on a little bit late because I was finishing rewatching it, and we'll actually get to that a little bit later on. But man, that first like 15, 20 minutes of the movie with the great action scene in London and then Frank on the cruise is just so good. And the delivery on the jokes and his reaction to the little girl and the little girl's reaction back to him, man, it's just tremendous. And people who have that reaction for the first time that they ever ride the Jungle Cruise with the backside of water. My buddy and I, Mark and I, when we rode it this past trip, went crazy, and people looked at us like we had six heads.
Did you not?
No, no, just the two.
Okay, so yeah, here's a picture of it, and they did a great job bringing the jungle to life, and this ship that he has put together and basically built himself, and so he's leading these little cruises down the jungle. At the same time, we're learning about Emily Blunt's character Lily and her brother McGregor, who are trying to get a hold of this arrowhead that was found by Dr. Albert Falls of C. So they're basically making a plea in front of the C committee to get a hold of this arrowhead. And so
I think this is the first big misstep of the movie, because there could have been a way to just get lookalikes to C characters in that background that would have made big fans like us pop. Like if you had somebody who just looked like, I mean, you could get what's his name, the Python, to be back there. I'm sure he's not too expensive. Just, some of the people that we associate with C, there could have been a real good chance, like Hightower. He's very recognizable.
well, and she actually dresses in as she's trying to hide. I feel like as Hightower, does she not? When she's wearing
Well,
all
I
the
mean, it's more referencing the African Queen and Audrey Hepburn and her being one of the first women to actively wear pants. The Jungle Cruise is highly, highly, highly influenced by the African Queen, and this movie is also really influenced by the African Queen and has several homages to it.
yeah. No, I would agree to that, and I think they mention that as we go along. So they're making their speech, and then during the speech, everything kind of goes wrong, and so she tells her brother to vamp while she goes to steal this thing,
Yeah.
and then while she's in this like little like kind of almost like a lab trying to find this arrowhead, she opens up this big crate, finds the arrowhead, and there's a tiki bird in there. Do you think that's supposed to be a throw to the tiki bird, like the
I
tiki
do
room?
believe there are two references to the Tiki Room in this movie, and I think that is an intentional reference right there.
Okay. What do you think the second one is?
Frank
The
owes me money. What's the name of that bird?
What is the name of that bird?
Rosita.
Ah, okay. Frank owes me money. That's such a fun thing. Frank owes me money. So as they're in here and she's getting this, she has to hide because she's stealing it, obviously. And then this like evil like German prince comes in. Now, how many times have we seen the movie where the German guys are trying to get a hold of what some magical thing to help win the war? I feel like the Tesseract, right? With the Red Skull,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was that kind of thing.
Every Indiana Jones, as we referenced in the chat earlier.
Every Indiana
Um,
Jones.
so this is a real person, Prince Joachim. He is a real historical figure who eventually took his own life when his family renounced their chance at the throne of Germany. And so, like, this character being driven by power to try and put himself back on the throne is really like a callback to a historical figure, which is completely shocking to me.
Do you think that the historical figure had as bad an accent?
You do not speak ill of Jesse Plemons. That dude is one of the best character actors around. He is hysterical.
You know, the first time I saw him was the movie Date Night. Do you remember? Did you see that movie?
Game night, game,
Game
night,
night,
yeah.
game night. Yes, game night.
Yes.
Date Night was a different
Yes,
one,
he
but
is
yes.
tremendous in that.
How come you guys didn't invite me to your party? Um, Yeah, so he shows up and he's the typical like German villain, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, we've seen this too many times, but that's okay. I mean, it's a period piece. I feel like the period is 1917, the era that they're looking at.
Does it? Is it? It feels like it's like during the First World War. I don't think it's the second. I think
Yeah, I
it's during the
think.
First World War. So yeah, like that. That seems right. Like late teens, early 20s of the 20th century.
Yeah. So as they're going through the whole deal with the evil prince, then we get um, to Frank on his boat, and he's giving a tour to these unsuspecting passengers who I guess just came along for a nice ride. This is usually how I dress when I ride the Jungle Cruise, by the way. I don't know if you're
I
this
think this
formal or
is
not, but
yeah, this is the way you have to dress to ride the Jungle Cruise. It's a classy attraction.
it is a classy attraction. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate it. So when we go into, Frank's big bit of like, all these little jokes that he's doing, it's just like this is what we came for, right? This is why we showed
Yep.
up for this movie is
Yep.
Frank's jokes. And, he does this bit where he like kicks something and water comes down and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, the backside of water," which is always the big reveal. It's the big deal on the attraction, right? The backside of water. We always lead up to it. Um, but honestly, not my favorite.
I mean, it's very important because it's when you're transitioning. It's huge. It's a great bit. I don't know what you're talking about. It's the backside of water.
I like
I
the
mean,
Schweitzer Falls joke where they're like, named after, of course, Dr. Albert Falls. And like that to me, that I think the first time that like I got that joke, like that was like the coolest joke to me when they said that one.
yeah.
And then of course um, there was merchandise for that as well, which was kind of fun. And there was a cup they did a few years ago that was it was a clear kind of a tumbler that said,
Yeah.
"Ladies and gentlemen, the eighth wonder of the world, the backside of water." So
Yeah, and they make a great big deal about it when you order it at Skipper Canteen as well. So it's a fun little bit.
yeah, for sure. So once we have met Frank and we realize like that he's giving these like basically bogus tours, Lily has found this same village. Just happens to be in this same village where Frank resides and does his boat tours. But there's an evil guy, another evil guy. There's a lot of evil guys in here, right?
Yeah,
Nilo, played
we
by
we got to talk about this.
Paul Giamatti.
Like
Talk to me about
this is
Nilo.
New Haven's own Paul Giamatti, so he's a local guy here. He'll tell you that the best pizza in the world is from here in New Haven, Connecticut. Um, how did they get Paul Giamatti to do this movie? Because this is like a world class actor. I mean, he's not doing Big Mama's House anymore. I don't know if he just wanted to have fun and do a movie with Dwayne Johnson. I don't know if the check was gigantic, but he is chewing every piece of scenery he comes in contact with. He could not play it bigger if he tried. I think it's a great performance because I think it called for that kind of bad guy at that point in time.
Well, and in the special features, which there are some on here on Disney Plus, which again,
I
bless you,
never
Disney
checked that
Plus.
out.
You son of a bee. You
Oh
did not come
man.
prepared. But on like my biggest complaint is that there's so much content that was on all of these DVDs for all of these movies
Yeah,
that they've
we've
had
talked about that.
that
It's a great idea.
yeah, that they've missed out on. But on this one, they deliver. There are a bunch of deleted scenes that are available on there. Wish there was a play all for deleted scenes. I didn't see that if there was one. But there's some behind the scenes, and one of the things they talked to Paul Giamatti about is he never played an over the top Italian character, and his last name is Italian, and so he was really
Yeah.
excited to bring that to this movie. Not sure if that's why he did it. I have no idea why he did it. But you're right. He
Maybe.
seems like out of place in this because it feels like they would have sunk all their money into it being The Rock and Emily Blunt and then whoever else they could get. But he's definitely a big deal in this
Yeah, it's
movie.
not like Jesse Plemons is an A-lister. He's an enjoyable actor. He's good in most of the things that he's in. But, he's not breaking the bank. I don't think really a whole lot of the extras were. But you gotta write a check to Paul. Or maybe he was just like, yeah, Dwayne Johnson, Emily Blunt, Disney movie, I'm in.
Um, there was this bit when Frank was on the boat with all of the other people where somebody said, "Can you make him stop?" And he says, "No one can." because of these like cheesy jokes that he's doing. And there's another cheesy joke that he has nothing to do with the Jungle Cruise, where he's sitting around later with with Lily and McGregor, and he says something along the lines of, "I dated a girl once who was cross-eyed. We broke up. We couldn't see eye to eye." And then
Yeah.
it's like this pause, and he goes, "I think she was seeing somebody on the side," and I was just. Stop! These are so horrible,
I mean,
but it's
that's
exactly
that's
what you
his
love.
humor. That's his humor too. I mean, that's what people really loved about him when he was in the wrestling ring.
Yeah.
Is that very underrated delivery? Sure, you can have the big moments, but just like nice, calm, casual conversation and throw a really cutting line in there.
Yeah. So when Frank gets to his dock and everybody gets off the boat and he gets all the money, then Nilo shows up and says, "Hey, you owe me for that engine. You're past due. I'm going to take the engine out, and then once I get my money from you, I'll put the engine back in." My question is, wouldn't it have been easier to just, I don't know, like chain the boat up rather than go to
I
all
was
this
going to
trouble?
say, is there like anything that's like a boot for a boat? The big anchor? Like, I don't know.
I don't know, but
You just
yeah, they go to the trouble to like take a crane and a hook and hook it onto the thing and then
yeah.
pull the engine out of the boat, and it's just like, couldn't
It's
you have just done something else? I don't know, throw him in jail. I don't know,
one
do
of the
something
many
else.
unnecessary plot elements in this movie.
Well,
Now it leads to a fun scene, but yeah, this could have been done in many different ways instead of having a giant crane lift an engine out of a boat.
when you say it leads to a fun scene, you mean a meet cute.
No, because the meet cute's whatever. I'll get more on that later as we go on. But I think like the tracking shot where he's kind of walking through and following and finding the keys, I think that's like a really good sequence.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. But so this leads him to decide that because Nilo has locked the key into his office, that he needs to go to the office and steal the key so that he can get his engine back from Nilo. So rather than trying to come up with the money or whatever, which I don't know, it feels like that you
How
take
could
away the
he
man's
like?
livelihood. How is he supposed
Yeah,
to make you more money?
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. But it leads him into the office, and then Emily Blunt, Lily, comes to the door and is like, "Hey, Mr. Nilo, I've told you were the guy to see about hiring a boat." And she doesn't realize that Frank is not Nilo, but she says something about having a lot of money. Then Frank goes to the door and says, "Okay, well, come on in." Part of this outfit, let's talk about his outfit for a second. Reminds me, if you
Mhm.
take the hat off, it seems like it could be something from Casey's Corner hot dogs,
Oh my God, it is spot on, Casey Corner.
right?
Wow, good
And I mean,
catch.
yeah, because it feels like like take me
I
out to
mean,
the ball
even the
game.
hat to some extent, like the hat at Casey's a little different color, but it's very similar in style.
Yeah. One cool fact about this, and
Yeah.
if you've come to us, you probably have already seen this movie in some way, shape, or form. If you've not, little spoilers happening here right now, is that the costume that he has, and again, this is something that I heard about when I was watching the extra features, was designed with different pieces from different periods that Frank would have lived through, which I thought
Oh,
was pretty neat. That goes back to the fact that they put so much care and attention into movies like this that we just skip out on completely. The other thing that I think we miss out on in this movie, based on the fact that we are sold into the idea that this is the Amazon and they can't really shoot a movie in the Amazon, is that this movie took place mostly in Atlanta and in Hawaii.
yeah. Yeah.
Kind of crazy, right?
So some of my complaints about this movie is it's hard to figure out what's like practical effect and what is CGI, except when the CGI looks really bad. And there's a couple times where the CGI looks really bad. Yeah, you obviously can't shoot in the Amazon. You can find a location somewhere that looks like it, but I feel like they went a little too heavy on CGI, and it didn't feel refined.
Well, speaking of CGI, one of the main characters is Frank's cat,
Yes, Proxima.
Proxima. Do you think that they do a good job with the CGI on
Yes,
Proxima?
I think Proxima's pretty great. I think Proxima's pretty great. There's some scenes like here it's not particularly good, but when it's interacting with people, I think it's really well done. Like I don't get distracted by the CGI. I do get distracted by something in this scene which is hysterical.
Okay, talk to me.
When the cat jumps up on the bar and knocks over the glasses of water. It it got me. It was like, I get it. It's still a big cat. And kind of, it was something dumb that made me laugh a lot.
One of the things, again, speaking of like the CGI, is they had an actor filling in for the cat, and apparently wearing like leopard skin like pants, walking around the set. And I know that Jack Whitehall in that interview was saying it was very weird to see this, and he thought it was just a crew member that showed up like for casual day because they were wearing like these tight leopard skin pants. But apparently, like they put on a hood and the whole deal and
They actually thought they were on cats. They didn't know.
walked around like that was going to be the cat, and so that
They
the
started
actors
singing "Memory" halfway through.
no, 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 no. So that the cat was going to be in their eye line, et cetera,
Yeah,
the same way they do with like Groot and the stick and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's very neat that they go to this trouble, but I think they do a really good job in this movie. For the most part, like you said, sometimes the CGI, but for the most part of making you believe that that's a cat, that they're in the jungle.
And it's interacting with the environment.
Yeah, I think they do a good job on it for the most part. So I think that from that standpoint, that's really cool. Here's something else I was thinking, my friend. Can I share this with you?
Oh, of course.
We could talk, right? You and me?
Yeah, this is a safe space.
Yeah, just you, me, and the chat. That's all we got going on here.
Yeah.
You, me, and the chat.
Yeah.
Here we go. So Walt Disney was famous for like mixing live action and animation. It started with like
Yes.
the Alice movies, and that he was making basically out of a little shop. And so there was a mix of live action and animation, and I think, well, we really haven't seen that too much in the past years. We saw Roger Rabbit happen, we saw Mary Poppins, we saw that kind of stuff. That's what this is, though. This is live action
Wow.
and animation,
Wow.
right?
Yeah. All right. I can buy into that. Yeah,
Because there are
it's
practical
basically-
effects.
Yeah.
But then there's also, yeah, like one of the main characters is an animated cat.
Interesting take. I like that. I think that's something a little different that most people don't think about. Is it's just the evolution of that. I think the problem is that it's the storyline in Roger Rabbit. I mean, there's a few others like Monkey Bone. Is Monkey Bone one? But Mary Poppins, obviously. And if it's part of the story, it's good. But when it's not part of the story and it becomes distracting, that's when it's a problem. I'm a big fan of practical effects. Take for example this past week's episode of the Book of Boba Fett, where people were really up in arms. I thought the practical effects were fantastic, but some of the stuff they did with CGI showed that it's shooting on a television show's budget, not a movie budget. And I feel like Jungle Cruise had a movie budget. It was supposed to be a blockbuster, and it didn't feel refined. I don't know if because of the pandemic and not getting, the post-production just kind of got cut down. I mean, if Bobby Budget cut loves those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Sleek Animation Wolf said, "No, Rob, I don't like that. Don't like that comparison. I guess. I'm gonna assume that's what we don't like. It could be your hat. I don't know. But Dipper Pine, shout out.
Come on, I'm as adventurous as I could pull together today. I
Nice.
was still in work clothes up until 20 minutes before showtime. I'm like, oh my god, I need to change.
KW says, shout out to Monkey Bone. Of course. You gotta
Thanks,
give a shout out to Monkey Bone. So one of the characters that I understand was not in the original script that they added later was McGregor. So Lily's brother,
Boy.
played by Jack Whitehall.
Played expertly by Jack White.
By the way, if you haven't caught his stand-up on Netflix, it is very funny.
I've heard it's really good,
The
yeah.
8 minutes he talks about nut milk. It's great. But he's playing this kind of like, kind of uppity brother, but apparently they added him as more of like the person in peril, because it's not going to be Emily Blunt's character. I think that in the way this is crafted, it's two evenly matched people with The Rock and what he's up to, and Lily and what she's up to, and so they're evenly matched. So neither one is the damsel in distress. So in this particular case, it goes to Jack Whitehall or McGregor to be sort of the damsel in distress, the fish out of water. He's come with all of these cases they're carrying down the steps to go on this jungle cruise, and he's bringing things like dinner jackets and things like that. And it reminds me of a bit from 30 Rock where where Liz walks into to Jack's office and he's putting on a tuxedo. She goes,
Yes.
"Why are you putting on a tuxedo?" He goes, "It's after 6 o'clock. I'm not a farmer." And I just like
I think that the chemistry between the three of them is so great. I would watch these three do just about anything. Like, they pop when they're on the screen. That last scene where he throws in the hug and "You're both my world," I thought that was amazing. Like, he is just tremendously funny, great comedic timing. I was wanted to bring up that scene because I felt like it could have been done quicker. One of the things you're going to see when I'm talking about this film is I think it's a little bit too long. I think it drags in parts, and I think there's plot points that don't lead anywhere. But that scene was good. I think it just, you got to go with the rule of three or even a little bit shorter. Have them throw a couple things off and then get to the liquor, and like, that can stay. And that's a quick bing, bang, boom scene, and it felt a little bit dragged out. And I don't know, how much do you want to get into Jack Whitehall's character, Rob?
Well, however, as much as you want to, buddy. I mean, we're going deep in the plus here. Talk to me. What
We
do you
do
got?
go deep.
What do you got?
So Disney likes to pat itself on the back and say that this is their first openly LGBTQIA individual, and it's pretty terribly done. The fish out of water would have worked regardless of his sexual preference. It feels forced and unfunny to me when you start playing that as part of a stereotype that in 2021, when this movie was released, it might have even been 2020, man. These last years have just smushed together. That isn't an okay thing. And even some of the jokes that where they play it off like the gay panic, I'm like, this is not an okay thing for you to be doing. This is not the representation people ask for. That character could have been a fish out of water without necessarily having different sexual preferences, or they could not have been explored. If you want to do a gay character, you don't have to lean into the stereotypes. You can come and just make a character who is a regular person gay, instead of, really trying to kind of play into some of the effeminate stuff. I didn't appreciate that. I did appreciate Jack Whitehall's performance. I thought he was tremendous.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that yeah, it is playing a little bit too much into the stereotype, because I think just the uppity British guy would have been enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, this movie is trying to do a lot of things all at once. I think it's talking about,
Yes.
it's probably also talking about like environmental issues because of like the jungle and the things
There
we
was
take
a
from
minute
it.
when I thought it turned into Avatar.
I was about to
briefly.
say,
Yeah.
you have issues with that.
What's I have issues with that.
What's the one? Fern Gully is the other one that you always compare Avatar to.
Yeah. I don't think I didn't, that's a good pickup by you. I wasn't even picking up the environmental message. I was, for some reason, being like, is this trying to make a pro-euthanasia statement? Like, that doesn't feel like a Disney point of view. But they're having this very serious, and it's framed like a very serious conversation in the middle of this funny movie about Frank's want to pass along and to rest and how it should be his choice. I'm like, this feels out of place.
Yeah. So what are you drinking?
Still seltzer.
Okay. So now we find out that our good friend the prince is still after them. He is they're trying, they found out that Lily is in town. He has been tracking Lily across the country or across the world to try to find the arrowhead that she took, because that's what he was there for, was the arrowhead. And so he tracks her down to this village, and he has henchmen in the village that see she's there, and they try to capture her by throwing her, which was pretty smart. They throw her into this like cage full of birds, and the birds are squawking and moving all about, and you can't really see her in there, and you can't really hear her.
Yeah.
That was super
Pretty
smart.
henchman.
Yeah. Where did they get that
who
idea?
Henchman that good?
I don't
it's hard
know.
to find a good henchman.
Good henchman.
Good henching.
Good henching. So, but apparently not so great, because she's able to get out, and they established early by her getting into Nilo's, not really safe, but into his like cabinet, that she could pick a lock. So they established that already. Yeah. And then they don't have to tell us that she's capable to pick a lock when she's trying to get out of the cage. I thought that was smart. I thought that was good storytelling.
She picked 2 locks in the first 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah.
Good.
That's good movie making.
Yeah.
That's the Chekhov's gun kind of thing.
So let me tell you about a little scene that bothers me, though. This one with the prince.
Right.
So we cut to the scene with the prince. All we see is that he's eating. He has taken this painstaking approach to get these peas.
This is upsetting for no reason.
Right. I mean, the anxiety. Are those peas going to fall off? Why did he go to all the trouble to put those three peas
What
on the back of a fork? I was so much. I don't care for. I don't care for it.
that I did not pick up on my first viewing. On my second viewing, I'm like, has this always been in the movie?
I don't care for
What
it. I don't like
character
it.
choice is that? Who?
Yeah.
How'd you do that? Are the peas CGI? Like, that's a lot of skill.
Yeah, and at this point, when he's down there and they say, "Look, she got away," and he's like, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come take this. Put it. Take this situation in my own hands." Then we find out that he's in a submarine.
Yep,
So
a
that's kind of cool.
very familiar looking submarine.
So here's a submarine, and he pops up, and he's got this like Gatling guns, I assume, and
Yep,
he's just
yep.
tearing it up. What's familiar about this submarine there, buddy?
Some of the angles do remind me a bit of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea,
The Nautilus.
because it's not yeah, the Nautilus. It's not straight out German U-boat, because it doesn't, it's like a hybrid. I feel like it might be a brief homage. It is mentioned in the IMDb section. Once the thought was in my head, I saw it, but otherwise I just kind of thought it was, a U-boat.
I mean, I think part of it is it's just a submarine, right? Like
Yeah,
that's the
that's
thing
true.
that like when you look at it, it's just a submarine. But what I do like about this shot is Nilo's like fleet because
Yes.
he is upset that that Frank has the one ship that's not his in this town, and so he's like, someday I'm going to own that boat. But all of these that look like the cleaned up right off,
Pristine.
yeah,
Yeah.
right off the like the assembly line versions of the Jungle Cruise ships, like how they might have looked coming straight out of the factory, which is very cool to see. By the way, I have this is not for giveaway. The giveaway is still
Okay.
the wishables. I haven't even taken this out of the package because I love this so much.
We got.
But this is the
Oh.
Jungle Cruise. It was an ice cream dish that they did at
Yeah.
Disneyland when they reopened
Yeah.
the Jungle Cruise, and I
Yeah.
don't think they ever did them in Florida. But I had to have it, and it's got a spoon that acts as the when you put it upright, looks like the smokestack. So I love that thing, but I haven't even taken it out of the
Yeah.
package, so I can't really show you anything further than
Yeah.
that. But the boats themselves are
So
just
nice.
so amazing.
I mean,
Iconic,
anybody who's
iconic.
watched Park Center know how I feel about boats. Hi, Kamila. Just in case you tuned into this episode to see how I really feel about boats. Those boats look so good, but you know what's upsetting, Rob? They did not name any of the boats as we passed over. They all just said Nilo's River Cruise, I believe.
They did. Well, maybe that was for the sequel. I don't know. Bad news though is they all get torn up by the sub and they go bye bye. So the sub, thanks to some quick thinking by Jack, the sub, as you can see, crashes here. But what I wanted to show in this shot is that they built
Yep.
this little town. They built like pieces of it, actually built it in Hawaii so that they could do this. But
Really?
yeah,
See, man, that's the kind of filmmaking I love.
yeah, so very practical. And then the idea that this is Hawaii, and I buy into it 100% that they are in the Amazon. Like, it's just beautifully done from that standpoint. I
Even
think
the
that-
layout there feels like the ride. It feels like the attraction, the way it curves around like that.
But it just goes to show you that you can't really believe. It just goes to show you anything can happen in the movies. It just goes to show you can't really believe what you see all the time in the movies anymore because of how well that's done. When you look at the Jungle Book and how well Jon Favreau brought that to life, and to know that like so much of it, including the backgrounds that you just take
Let's
for granted.
just
or,
put a
like,
pin real quick in a conversation you're having. When is Jon Favreau going to get the recognition that he deserves for being like a great tier director?
I don't know. How are you going to make that happen?
I don't know, man. Maybe he should get like a post Oscar for Zuthura. Why would I pick one I can't pronounce? You would
Thora.
with all the movies he's done, that one that could not come out of this mouth is the one that I went with. Yeah. Good job.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Rosita has given us a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Rosita. Very generous. We appreciate you. Because my name was in this movie, really go see this in 4D Max. I love this movie too. Thanks for all the info. Thank you again for the super chat. That's great. Yes, because the bird
And I
is
feel like
Rosita.
what Rosita is saying is why this movie wasn't more of a phenomenon. It's sure I do believe it did well, but with the changing times and not being at the box office, this was a movie that I watched part of the time on my phone that deserves to be seen on a big screen with the sound turned way up.
I will tell you that I saw it in the theater.
Yeah.
Some of them, again, when Disney Plus does this, when they do the premiere access and the theater, it's a Sophie's choice. Do I want to sit on my couch and invite 8 people over and pay $30, or do I want to go to a movie theater, have the movie theater experience? But I go to a very expensive movie theater
Mm,
because it's like because I love the place and they have food there and you get the whole thing, but it's expensive
yeah.
to take the whole fam. So it's like, what do you decide to do in this case? Like
Yeah.
for Cruella, I opted for the premiere access. For
Yeah.
Mulan, you didn't have a
I waited
choice.
for Cruella to be free.
Yeah, but for Mulan, you didn't have a choice. For Encanto, they released it to the theater and then waited a month and then gave it to you for free. There wasn't premiere access. So, I
This is going to
mean,
be something that Hollywood and Disney especially is going to have to navigate. I mean, we're doing this on January 18th, and just a couple of days ago, maybe about a week ago, they said that Seeing Red is not going to see the theaters. And this is like the second or third straight Pixar that they just went right
yeah.
to plus with. And I'm wondering, is there something more to that? What do we need to know about where our future lies in theater versus home? Now, I enjoy being at home. I have a 2.5-year old, so sitting down and watching a movie and being able to pause it when I gotta pee, getting snacks is really great for me. But I'm not gonna watch Black Widow for the first time in that small screen. I'm
No,
gonna
I
go to the
agree, and I
theater.
think Marvel movies,
Yeah.
Star Wars movies, both of those for sure
Yep.
are big screen for me. Encanto, I couldn't get to the big screen, and so I watched it
Mm-hmm.
on for free on Disney Plus. But you going back to the Pixar thing, and sorry for the TO in the middle of
Yeah.
this, but by the way, while we're talking about this again, if you haven't given us a thumbs up, please do. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. They have. They have some kind of a weird test. I don't know what they're doing because all three of the Pixar movies that have been released, the two already, Soul, and then before it, and we'll talk about this next week because Eric Wolf and I are
Yeah.
doing a review of Soul, but Soul and then also before it, or Luca after it. Sorry, so it was
Yeah.
Soul and then Luca, and then now Turning Red are all not only on Disney Plus but free, as opposed
Yeah.
to when
Yeah.
they did Mulan. They said, "Hey, we're gonna charge you the premiere access." When they did, Black Widow, we're gonna charge you the premiere access. So there was. I don't know how they decide that, but again, the fact that they've chosen all the Pixar movies to be free and to throw that in the same category with Artemis Fowl that was supposed to get a theater release
it
but ended up
it
getting a
feels
freebie.
like a slight, like it feels like there's a message being sent there.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to hear what you say about it with Soul. And maybe we pop back on here in a couple of months for Turning Red and we're like, what a mistake they made. People would have paid for this. um and bringing it back to the Jungle Cruise, I think at the time it was released, what they did really made sense. I think it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree, but again, and Rosita said she saw it in 4D. 4D Max was great,
Yeah.
and then I also see somebody else was saying that they saw it. I think it was Dawn said she saw it in the theater. So,
Yeah,
um,
I we don't have 40 Max anywhere I know here. This is when I'll usually look over and Ron will text me that one is actually close by. But I did Spider-Man in XD, which is like just a step down. It doesn't have like the motion as much. And the experience was insane, especially it was my first experience back in the theater in a few months. And man, like there's just something about it. And I feel like we're not at the end where I talk about if I like it or not, but I feel like I would have enjoyed this movie more if I had that big screen experience at one point in time. I think it's something that needed to be seen on the big screen.
okay, I'm with you on that. Let's get back to the movie a little bit. One of the
Yeah.
things that I thought was interesting was the scene where he shoots the gun in the air. Critter falls to the ground. They look at it. They go, "I'm not eating that." He throws that into the water and then gets the piranha back over. It's like, no, no, no. This is what you're eating. So I feel like this is sort of another homage because the Disneyland attraction of what bothers me that it's only there. The Disneyland attraction of the Jungle Cruise has the piranhas. They have the piranhas that
Yep.
come up beside the boat. I don't know why you don't add that to the one in Florida. Why don't you do that? Because it's a really neat thing.
They're tying things together with the movie and the attractions. They really missed a lot of things they could have done in this situation, because they were refurbishing the ride as they were waiting for the film to come out. And I expected chimpanzees to play a much bigger role because they really added them in a prominent place in the attraction. I mean, you could have had a sub periscope come up. I'm very excited. For a long time, once the movie was announced, we were very fearful that the Jungle Cruise was going to be replaced by Dwayne Johnson spieling.
Right.
And as much as I enjoy Dwayne Johnson and has been a fan of his for years, the Jungle Cruise works because of the cast members. As you've heard WWNT talk about many times, the cast members are the magic. And on the Jungle Cruise, the cast members are the attraction. When people started goofing on that and were afraid to show Walt and eventually showed him and got his approval, that's what changed this ride, that it's in so many parks and wasn't paved over.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things. The Piranha wasn't a movie tie-in; it just exists, and so I think that was a thing that I wish existed in Florida. But the fact that The Rock came out and was like, "Hey, there's going to be some big changes to the Jungle Cruise," and then they were like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, never mind him." What we meant to say was there are changes, but it has nothing to do with this movie. So take a breath. But you know you're right because they made so many little tweaks to the Pirates of the Caribbean. They didn't do that with Haunted Mansion, but with this one,
Thankfully they did not do that for Haunted Mansion or for Tower. Two nearly perfect attractions that don't need anything. And Jungle Cruise might be my favorite attraction, but it could use any little plussing. I mean,
but they did that. They did some plussing,
job. Right? But tie it in, bring it all around. You know.
I mean, do you think they didn't tie it in because they didn't have faith in the movie? Or do you think they were still just like, the movie is its own thing. Let's just be faithful to the attraction itself. Like, where do you think
that's a really good question that I don't have an answer to.
Why not?
If I could figure out how Bob Chapek thinks, except for budget cut, you know, I'd be higher up in this company than just, you know, some jabroni who comes on a few times to make people laugh.
That's you. Okay,
that's me.
Let's get back to the movie again. Here's a thing that was interesting to me. So when they open up the movie, they're talking about this pedal, the tears
of the moon.
Tears of the moon. So that's they're telling that story to see this, like the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. They're telling them that story as they're trying to say why they need the arrowhead. And so we're learning about that from the very beginning, about this magical pedal that, you know, that is out there in legend. Then we find out that that's what they've been chasing all along, but we don't really know the whole story yet. And finally we get to a point where they tell the story about these conquistadors that came.
It is literally when they get to that point in time to tell the full story, the movie's almost over and it has no impact at all. The only thing it impacts is Frank, how he survived that fall. But
there's a scene before it though where the prince has found out that he can't get the arrowhead, but he knows where to get the answers about the arrowhead because he knows that the conquistadors are in this pit, right? Yeah. And so he goes there to this pit, and they kind of explain this whole thing. At this point, we still haven't heard the whole story yet, but they explain this whole thing about he's got some river water, and he's going to take that. Did I do that? Did I do that justice? Did I do that?
Are you enjoying your trip in the jungle?
The jungle. The jungle? The jungle.
Can you use it in a sentence?
So good. So he takes the river water and he kind of splashes it on the one guy, and he kind of comes to life, and he's like, he almost looks like he's a statue caught in these vines, but like this snake comes out. Now we get 4 of these dudes, right?
Yeah.
So they all kind of come out
all gross, super gross.
An expression my dad would have used is they come out of the woodwork.
Not literally.
Yeah. And so they're in the pit, and you know all of his like soldiers are with him, think he's nuts. They think he's just super nuts. And then
by the way, those 2 soldiers are great because later on when the bees are on the map and he goes, "Do you think the bees can give us coordinates?" I was like, that is such a great line. There's a lot of really good character work by a few people in this. For somebody who's terrified of snakes, this is not a great movie.
Are you terrified of snakes?
Completely terrified.
Really? Like how terrified? Like
bad. Like this is okay. This took me a long time to be able to like be okay with snakes in movies. One of the only films I've seen twice in the theater is Snakes on a Plane, so I have no idea how I did that. But I've torn my calf muscle running away from garter snakes. Tom saw me flee a theater at Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey from a snake maybe being 30 feet from me.
Does this give you anxiety?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, right. See what I did? Yeah. But, man, these guys are gross. they are just gross in every way, shape, or form, and I don't know if we needed that much grossness. It felt a little overkill, right?
Well, what I was going to say was that the conquistadors that come out, they're like the Avengers basically, or the Fantastic Four, more likely the Fantastic Four, in the fact that they've each got a different power. They were all in the same, perfectly Fantastic Four. They were all in the same accident, but they all four get different powers. What? That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
And the powers are terrible. One is mud and frogs.
Yeah.
One is bees and honey.
This dude's bees and honey, yeah.
Then there's
Snakes.
Tree Guy and Snake Guy. Snake Guy has some good powers. Tree Guy has some good powers. But Mud Guy and Bees and Honey Guy, like, he's like, we're all disgusting. Speak for yourself. I'm delicious.
Right.
It's like, it's weird, dude.
It's so weird.
Much.
Yeah, no, but I just, they're, again, it's weird that they're all in the same accident, not an accident, they're all under the same curse. Why do they all four have different powers?
And what is Francisco's?
Francisco.
Was he?
What a fun name, fun way to say. Fun name to say.
Really
Francisco. Francisco.
I mean, Francisco owes me money, although it doesn't sound as good.
Frank owes me money. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. We're good.
But yeah, like, does Frank have any powers, or he wasn't cursed because he turned on them? Spoilers, pardon me.
Yeah, probably. I mean, probably that's the case. Hey, let me show you this scene, because this is again with the so let's back up a second. So they've opened up the river water. Meanwhile, in the A story, Lily, McGregor, and Frank are going down through the butter churn because she said, I want to go the fast way. They go the fast way, but that's where the rapids are, and they almost don't make it. And so they're headed to this, they know that they're headed to this certain place where they think the Tears of the Moon can be found. And so as they're heading that way, they get ambushed by some marauders or some natives who take them hostage. And so at this point, it seems like the natives that Frank had hired before, but I think we're also like, as the audience, we're still not really sure that that's who these are.
Yeah, but I had a really good feeling of which way it was going to go, but it's not completely blatantly obvious.
So before I do that, one of the scenes in here reminds me of what you were talking about with the animation, the CGI, because this doesn't look great.
No, they do not look great. The bad guys do not look great. And it honestly, my friend Mark said, it felt like Jungle Pirates of the Caribbean cruise. The four bad guys really reek of Pirates of the Caribbean. They felt like they lifted them, honestly, CGI and all, out of that time period where Pirates was pretty impressive for when it was, and this is not so much.
Well, again, as the German trope of the Germany trying to get their hands on this thing, same goes for Pirates and Jungle Cruise, and the fact that there's a mysterious curse, and the guys who are under the curse are trying to get free of the curse, and in doing so, they have this very evil power that they're using against everyone else to get what they want. Yeah, it's a very similar thing. As a matter of fact, I don't love that this took a supernatural turn. As a matter of fact,
me either.
Yeah, I wish it didn't. I wish it didn't take that supernatural turn.
No, there's so many storylines in this. Like, if you just took the bad guys out of it and their story was just backstory, nothing's lost in the film. Or if you're like, these are possibly conquistadors, and they all are more like Francisco, where they're in that area and you don't see them leave, and you did a better reveal of the supernatural. I think you should have picked one villain. I don't think the two villain works here. I think it adds too much to the movie.
Why is it that every time Desi shows up in the chat, they're talking about Star Wars or Brink? It's one or the other. So one of the other things that I wanted to say, there was a very divisive situation with this movie. Trader Sam. Sam.
I loved it.
But they went out of their way. Okay. For those who don't know, in the attraction, they've gone out of their way to get rid of Trader Sam. Like, Trader Sam is mentioned, but Trader Sam physically isn't there. So Trader Sam is whatever you think Trader Sam is, which was maybe a pretty smart decision. Then in the movie, they turn around and go, no, this is Trader Sam.
Yeah, I think she's awesome, and I think she should have been Trader Sam. And I don't think there's anything inherently offensive about that because of the way that it's told in the story. I worry that Disney would not be able to do that with the same level of aplomb as it's done in the film. But I think it's a great character. I think they did a great job. She looks good, and I think even on the ride, the evolution to, well, Trader Sam now realizes that these are tourists, and every a tourist attraction needs to end in a gift shop. I think it's really wonderful. I think they've done great with that, and I wouldn't have been upset if this was a version of Trader Sam that we got with a little bit of a wink and a nod to the movie.
Yep. Okay. So they've got all of the they've taken them hostage, but then we find out it's really more of a con, some con still of Frank's to try to get the arrowhead back, and then we find now Lily definitely doesn't trust Frank. She wants to move on without him, and then the conquistadors attack. Here's the Mud and Frogs guy.
No, not Mud and
Yeah,
Frogs.
no, here's Mud and Frogs. You got to see Mud and Frogs. So here's Mud and Frogs guy. They attack. Everybody like scatters. People are hurt. Frank seems like he's killed. He throws the arrowhead to Lily at the last
Yep.
minute, and then he looks like he falls and is dead forever. So then, as the conquistadors kind of disappear into the night, they kind of regroup later, and she sees Frank and finds out that he's alive, but he's got
Yep.
a sword through him. And
Which is, man, that scene is long, but it's funny.
yes, agree. Like Jack Whitehall's character is like, "You want to bite on my stick?" No, okay. And there's like, and they kind of, it's almost like they were revamping, and kind of
Yeah,
ad libbing
yeah,
that because she's like, yeah, he means that actually for the pain. I know what he means. I mean, it was very very
yeah,
conversational. Felt very real. But that's where you find out that Frank is of the undead. He is
yep,
this. He was one of the conquistadors. Then this point, which, as you mentioned, is way far into the movie. It's this is about a 2 hour 10 minute movie. This is more than halfway through the movie when we find out Frank's story. But again, the supernatural thing, the fact that they had to make this whole thing the supernatural and that Frank is part of it.
yeah.
I don't know. I was
You
liking it
could have
up
done
until
the
then.
reveal differently, and I think once the supernatural starts, it's a turnoff. Like Snake Guy, Frog Guy, all those people. Like if they're just other people in the jungle going after it, and even if you want to do the two villains, if you do the two villains where they're just not supernatural, the German with all the resources, the money, the U-boat, all that, versus the people who are natives, it really could be done better. And I think it's like tacked on. This is a big problem that I have in Hollywood in general is, man, what happened to a 90-minute movie? Like a quick in and out, let me enjoy something. Why does everything have to be 2+ hours? I don't have that long to invest. And especially when you're running, like you talked about the A and the B plot, I think there's like a C and a D plot in this as well. And there's too much plot that goes nowhere.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Um, we talked about the third act of Tomorrowland. This one starts to, I think, sort of unravel a little bit at this point,
Mm-hmm.
because there's too much going on. And up until this point, we knew, okay, the German prince is the bad guy, and these people are on a quest. And then it kind of gets interrupted, I think, with when Trader Sam's people kidnap them, and he tries to get the arrowhead there. So
Yeah.
now, because we've now introduced a new group, because now we've got the
Yeah.
prince is the
Yep.
baddie, but then we've also got the conquistadors are the baddies. We
Mm-hmm.
already had Nilo was like another baddie. There's a lot of baddies in this one. It's almost
Yeah,
like
and Nemo.
Spider-Man, No Way Home.
Oh, I mean, that's fine in Spider-Man No Way Home. We were actually short a few bad guys in Spider-Man No Way Home. We needed just a few more.
Sure, sure,
But
sure.
this is, it makes, God. Let's get through and then we can talk about it at the end when we, ask that final question.
Yeah.
But it feels like it misses the mark in so many different places.
Well, and another part of this is in telling the story of where he came from and why they came and the conquistadors came. The fact that they wanted the secret to the Tears of the Moon so that they could cure the one guy's little sister, I think it was, or daughter. It was daughter, right? Then I get that, but the fact that then they commit like basically genocide here and killing off this entire village, I think that to me is just like it's so dark. And
There's no need for it. What's the point of this? Why do we need to have every villain have some sort of redeeming quality? Why can't they just be the bad guy in the movie? You know, like one of the reasons that I didn't like Cruella as much as I could have is that character doesn't need a redemption. Make a movie that's similar to that. That's not Cruella de Vil. I get it. You're trying to sell it with an existing character, but so they started out on this on a noble cause to save his daughter, and then genocide. I was like, you don't come back from genocide, Thanos.
yeah, no, you're right.
Oh, I did the snap too. I didn't even put that together.
Too much. So so then now the conquistadors and you know, we know their story and the fact that they're cursed and they can't leave the river, and so you know they have to stick close to the river. They can't go and get
Yeah.
the arrowhead from
Yeah.
where it is, and so
But
then
Deus ex Machina, like, just go a little further into the jungle. They can't come there.
yeah, exactly. But that's when they send the bees to find the prince because they're partnered up with the prince, and the
Gonna send
bees
the dog with the bees in their mouth, or
the bees bring them back. They're like, you know, they show the prince where everybody's going to be. Bee, get it? And so then they all converge on this
I
place.
wasn't paying attention.
I'm done. So they get to they get to this place where the snake mouth converges with the river, where they're going to find the tears of the moon, and they've got the arrowhead. Or Emily Blunt, Lily has the arrowhead. Then they've kind of set up that she's afraid to swim, and so then
That
she has to jump
can't
in the
swim.
water, and so he's
Yeah.
going to swim with her. I feel like if she
An
really was that afraid to
unnecessarily
swim,
dramatic scene.
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could have been enough that they just
Yeah.
needed her to be small enough to get into where the lever was, but instead,
And then the piranhas come back.
yeah, they make this whole deal about her being afraid of swimming. So anyway, they go in and they get to the inside where the tree looks dead, but then they decipher the code on the arrowhead and they break it open, and then they ride. And then they like the tree comes to life. It just happens to be, here's the problem. Here's the problem, Patrick. It just happens to be 2 days before this very rare
Yeah.
moon is happening that they are coming upon it. Like, it's just too much of a coincidence. I feel like it needs
Obviously,
to,
yeah.
yeah, it needs to have been something else. They need to have been planning all along that this moon was
Yes!
then. Yeah.
So
it's just
Rob,
too
I'm
weird.
gonna give everybody an inside look right here on how to find out before you watch a movie if it's gonna be good. So you roll over to IMDb and you find out who wrote it. And if you see more than like 3 writers, 4 writers, this movie has 7 writers credited.
7.
Yeah, 7. And that's not a good thing. So this movie went through rewrite and rewrite and rewrite, and it's just like so many people contributed. There's not one linear narrative that sticks on the line.
Well, that's a good point. They also talk about in this one, because again, the third act is very strange when they're wrapping up everything. But one of the behind the scenes was that they want to take you to places where you've never been, places that you're going to remember, places that are exotic, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that they really kind of accomplished that with the place that they've found here. Once they drain the
Yeah.
water and this temple is here, you know, they've kind of taken us to a place we've never been before. And I think it was really well done. Did
Yep.
you ever see a movie called Krull?
The alligator movie?
No, it was called Krull, and it was about this castle that was always moving that they had to find.
No.
And so in this,
That sounds cool.
yeah, it's very very sci-fi.
Is
type
it on
of
Disney
situation.
Plus?
No,
Oh, all right.
no.
Oh,
But
okay.
but when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking like that's what this is this like castle that no one can find, kind of like
Well, it
Atlantis
felt
or
very
something
much
else.
like the end set piece of oh my god, I forgot the name of my favorite Indiana Jones movie.
The Last Crusade.
Last Crusade.
Last
Yeah, it
Crusade
feels
should
very
be
much like-
everybody's favorite Indiana Jones
Oh,
movie.
absolutely! Like seriously, Last Crusade is so good. Sean Connery. It feels like that in the set piece. This is where movie making today gets to me. Is like if I know that's a physical set and I feel it, it feels so much more in the movie. But sometimes CGI being so good, or sometimes it being bad, it can really just suck you right out of the scene. Like I like physical sets. You know, I want to be in that space. I want to feel that.
Well, and a lot of it is physical sets, which is cool. But you're
Yeah,
right. There
yeah.
are some that are not. So they activate the tree. The tree has the blooms, and there's plenty for everybody. But they're spending time like arguing with the prince of how many like petals he's gonna get. I give you one
It's
petal.
so upsetting.
Yeah. If they hadn't been
They
fighting
they
over it, they
make
could have had as many as they wanted to. Look at this. There's
they're
as many as you
making
want.
plot points where no plot exists. Like you had to fake drum up scarcity for this. Why couldn't you have made it from the beginning? It's just one freaking flower.
Dawn says it was early '80s. Patrick is too young. Okay. I think that she's talking about Krull. I think maybe.
Movie length, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, so when yeah, I agree with you about that, but it just seems like there should have been petals for everybody, and then none of this is a problem. But they're all fighting over it, and in doing so, there's such a small
Petals
window.
for everybody and flowers for Algernon.
Sure. So another seltzer, cool. So when they're going through trying to find all of the, they're trying to get the last petal, they get it. There's only one, and then they drop
Yeah.
it to Frank, and then Frank leaves it with Lily, and then Frank crashes the boat, seals away the river, and he has the same fate that they do, where he gets pulled into the wall, and they're stuck there for eternity, except that one petal that she puts into his mouth, it goes away, and then of course she gives it 18 seconds and then walks away, because why wouldn't you? You know, I mean,
Yes, this doesn't work.
Where
This
they-
movie was pointless.
where are they in a hurry to go to? They're like, oh, it didn't work. Okay, let's hit the road, guys. We're good.
They
Proxima.
needed tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Frank comes out of the wall. He's been saved. It's great. Then they go to the society again, and they basically tell them, "Oh, now you want us because we have this great, we have these great things that we've discovered." And then they just disappear. And then he drives he gets into a car because she's been telling about a car, and he gets to drive away. I mean, that's basically the movie. But I think that the
I don't
important
know if
part
it's
is the first
intentional.
half of the
Yeah.
movie. The first half is the
Yeah.
one that I think is the better half of that movie. But what were you gonna say?
I don't know if it's intentional or not. When McGregor is talking to C at the end, is that he very clearly references one of The Rock's catchphrases from wrestling, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but he did frequently threaten to put things in orifices uncomfortably, as he did, as you can cram it up your association.
Gotcha. One last thing I want to say about this movie, and by the way, there
Yeah.
is not an after credit scene because that would have been the
I
lead into
really
something
was
else.
waiting for one too,
Yeah.
but because I'm not dumb, I immediately go to IMDb and I'm like, "Is there a post-credit scene?" No. Okay. No offense to you below the line people. All your work is very important, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you without seeing your name.
Desi said, "Did we decide this is C?" Yeah, they were very clear about that.
Yes,
that
it's
this is-
100% C.
Yeah, they talk about that, and the fact that Albert Falls' findings are on those crates, and I think it's like says Falls Expedition on the side of it. But one last thing is that as they're departing from London and they pan out, he's in his car for the first time. Which what was the brand of the car, Patrick?
Come on. I'm going to say it was, it has to be BMW, right? BMW or Mercedes-Benz?
Yep, Buick.
Why was there an American car in England at that point in time?
I don't know, but they do a close-up of it and it says Buick, and I was going to hit you with some trivia. That was one of them because I like to torture you with trivia.
I
but
was scouring this movie. That's why I was watching it a second time, so I would not be defeated on trivia again. I was looking for every little detail. I'm like, numbers. Rob's like, numbers. I'm like, 2 beers and 2 steaks. Okay.
Yeah. No, you're right. Okay, so numbers. What was the number on the train that brought Lily to the town?
61.
Yes! And what was the name of his ship?
His ship is a L'Aquila, and it's supposed to be named after the moon goddess, but that actually is, man, my Spanish, I don't have Spanish. La Quineta?
I think they say L'Aquila.
Yeah, L'Aquila is the name of it, but it's incorrectly named in the movie.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that was not the moon goddess's name.
Good on you for picking up on the 61. Now you've seen through me. You know what's going on. So anyway, as they're backing out and he's driving in the car, he's taking the wheel, he's driving the car. They pan out and you see the city, and to me, the city with the streets look like a river. Like this is sort of like the Amazon. Like this is his new Amazon that he's on.
Oh, dude.
Yeah,
that's smart, and that might be what they're going for
I
there.
feel like they would
But
have.
like, the Thames is right there. He could have just got on the Thames.
He could have. He could have. And you take the
I feel like
405 to
this
the.
was good
Oh,
reference.
yeah. Okay.
I feel like this was rife for sequel talk, and I sincerely hope that that does not happen.
Yep. Um, do we need to start doing post shows with this show? Somebody just has asked
I don't
about post
know. I
shows.
mean, it seems like people want it. I don't know what the future of timekeeping is. I know it's coming to an end, so we can
Well,
always
plus
discuss that.
timekeeping is recorded, by the way. So
Yeah,
I mean, just FYI.
yeah,
Anyway, the last thing about this is that
yep,
the attraction itself has grown over the years. The
yep.
mythology has recently changed as they've kind of gone through and taken cultural sensitivity meets like plussing out and done, I think, a great job with adding to this attraction with the
Far better than
chimpanzees,
pirates.
the
Far better than
animatronics.
pirates.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
think they did a good job with that. So after that, the skipper, the skipper canteen. Have you eaten
Hmm.
there?
Yeah. I
And
haven't in a while. I can't ever get my family to go.
because the food's a little bit
Yes.
too much. It's a little bit too the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
good though. I had falafel there once that was incredible. Like rivals falafel that I had in Israel. Like it was really good. It's a great little spot, like just to hang out and get apps if you want to keep it more low key.
yeah, true. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to put a bow on this, and again,
Yeah.
if you didn't hear already, we're going to do some giveaways of the Wishables. If you leave in chat or leave in the comments below after it's all said and done, you come back to the comments and tell us your favorite corny one line from the Jungle Cruise attraction or from the movie. Either one is fine, and we'll pick two winners, one for each of the Wishables that we have. And we'll have Patrick pick those out at some other time.
Yay.
Don't forget, next week we have Soul, and we're going to do that as our Deep in the Plus. And then the week after that is going to be our 100th review. Very exciting.
Woo!
So, we hope you tune in every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. But, Patrick, this is
Yeah.
the moment. This is the moment of truth, my
Mhm.
friend. You've hastily rewatched this movie tonight before you came on the show. So it's fresh
I
in your
started
mind.
watching it during the football game on Sunday, and then the football game was terrible, so I continued to watch it on Sunday, but didn't finish because it's a lot longer than I remember.
So it's fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. We've talked about the attraction. Now, I have to ask,
Mhm.
Patrick Hackett,
Mhm.
would you recommend this movie?
So, for those of you who are new to WDWNT and Unplanned Downtime, I used to host a show that was called Around the Hub. And we had a segment that is kind of quoted here in the beginning. Was the Jungle Cruise a hit or a miss? But we called it hit, miss, or meh. And I think this movie is a meh for me. It's too long. It's too bogged down. I think they fall over themselves to try and pat themselves on the back for having an openly gay character when it just is barely a thing. There's too many plot points. If this whole movie was what the first like 30 minutes were of it, I would really enjoy it. But it gets bogged down, like Rob said, with the supernatural. It gets bogged down with why do we have so many blooms and we just argue so nobody gets one. It's beautiful, and the characters, of course, have really great chemistry. There's a lot of charisma on that screen, but man, I can't tell you to spend 2 hours watching this movie. You know what? Like, if you turn off, oh, just you. If you turn off Disney Plus for a second and you want to see some more beautiful people get into hijinks, Red Notice over on Netflix is also Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot. So, really tremendously fun movie.
On the show, we
Yeah.
don't talk about Bruno, and we don't talk about Netflix. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
no, I'm just kidding. So I would say, though, I would almost recommend this movie because I do think that as a free offering on Disney Plus, I do think it's a good movie. I think it's a neat adventure. I think that I got a little excited when I saw the references to the movie, or to the attraction in the movie, just like I did where I hear Yoho in the first Pirates movie. So I do think, for me, I would recommend this, but I would caution that I wouldn't say this is the greatest movie out there. I would just say it's a fun movie. It absolutely, to me, is a fun movie. I do think, like I said, it falls apart a little bit in the second half, but I do think it's a fun movie. I'm glad I saw it. I enjoyed it, but we want to hear what you guys think as well. So if you've watched this movie, you can give us, comments on that as well. Again, if you haven't already, give us a thumbs up. It helps people to find the video. And again, don't forget, next week is Soul. The week after that is our 100th review. Very excited that we made it this far and that you guys were along on the trip with us. And thank you for doing that. And Patrick, thank you for being here. I know that you had to put aside some 49ers time to be able to spend some time watching.
I felt really bad about missing Park Center because I was very excited to talk about farts.
No. Festival of the Arts does not equal that.
Farts!
No, that's Festival Arts is what that would be. I don't know. It seems like it doesn't fit. But thank you for being on, Patrick. Thanks for reviewing this movie and for dressing up as always. I appreciate it when you come dressed up.
I tried to be adventure-y, and then I'm like, I've had this shirt for 5 months and I haven't worn it, so I should pop it on today.
Yeah, and thank you guys in chat. And thank you for the super chats tonight. We really appreciate it. We'll see you Sunday night at 8 p.m. for Park Center, and then again next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Thank you guys so much for joining us for Deep in the Plus. Have a great week, guys. Be safe out there.